Today we are going to study the sales law of market that is being given by JP Singh, Jing Baptiste Singh. जिसमें he said कि supply creates its own demand. This is the law or the theory on which a whole of the classical economics is based. Right? Classicals ने जब employment की theory दी, monetary theory दी, जितने भी macroeconomic point of view से, they have considered this law as very important, and based on this law they have created their theories or given their theories later on. So JB से का ये नियम है क्या? He says that supply creates its own demand, right? And the basic idea behind this theory or law is that there will never be a problem of general overproduction or glut in the economy, which Malthus has another point of view in this. He says that there will be a situation of glut or overproduction, but classicals or JBC has refuted his theory of glut or overproduction, and various classical economists were there like Adam Smith, JBC himself, Ricardo, Pigou, and J.S. Mill, etc., who have supported this Say's law of market. Now, what are the basic assumptions on which this law is being based, right? So, whenever in economics a theory or a law is framed or formed, so they develop it on the basis of certain assumptions. So they create certain assumptions. What are these assumptions? In this case, first is supply creates its own demand. That means there will never be a dearth of demand when production is being done. Whenever a producer starts producing or production, then there are mainly, we consider 4 factors of production that is there in the process of production. Those are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. So when the production process starts, they are being paid, right? So in terms of rent, wages, profit, interest, etc. So these are the income receipts they receive after the process of production. So with that income receipt, they will demand those goods again which they have produced. So in that way, supply makes its own demand. Right? Demand is being created itself when supply is being done. So that is the reason he said there will be no overproduction at any point of time. So why this is happening? Why there is always an equilibrium between the demand and supply, or saving and investment, etc. things, is because of the flexibility of prices. Now, what are these flexible prices? There, or JBC is talking about is the wage rate, the general price level, and the rate of interest, right? So due to flexibility of these prices, of various prices of whether the prices of goods and services, prices of labor, or prices of capital being flexible, the economy itself adjusts in an equilibrium situation where supply is being equal to demand always, right? So then he assumes that there will be no concept of overproduction that we have discussed earlier. Why there will be no overproduction? Because supply will always be equal to the demand, or demand is always equal to supply, right? What is this laissez-faire policy? Next is the laissez-faire policy. They assume that, or the classicals or the JB say, they assume that there is a laissez-faire policy that is being adopted by the government in economic affairs or economic activities. What does that mean is that there will be no interference by the government in the economic affairs. So the role of government is limited to only maintaining peace and order, or law and order situation in the country, or by maintaining they have to maintain the border security, etc. things. They have no role to play in the economic affairs. What does they assume? Because they base their theory in a capitalistic economic system where price mechanism is the main tool which plays an important role in the economy, right? So next assumption on which he based his law or the theory is that there will always be a situation of full employment. Classical always believed, when they gave their theory of employment, they said that there is never be a situation of unemployment. There persists always a full employment situation, which is a normal situation in the economy. Normal feature of an economy is that there will always be a situation of full employment. If there is certain unemployment persists, that will be for a temporary or a short-term period. An economy adjusts itself in such a way that full employment will automatically be restored, right? Then money as a wheel, what does that mean is, they or classicals or JBCA has assumed that money has just one role to play. That means it has just one function, that is that function is the medium of exchange. That means money only serves one function, that is medium of exchange, right? It has no other role to play in the economic activities, or it does not affect the economic activities at all, according to the classicals or JVC, right? Then next assumption is there is always a perfectly competitive market economy where supply and demand will always be in an equilibrium position. Then if certain people do not consume or do not spend their whole income, then whatever they save will automatically will be invested somewhere, right? So that is why they said ki there is always an equilibrium situation, between equality between the saving and investment as well. If people save, that will be automatically invested. This is how this will increase the aggregate demand as a whole, right? There are two kinds of demand. One is consumption demand and one is investment demand. So demand, that is why they consider demand will always be equal to the supply, right? Then I've already mentioned that whenever the classicals have given their theories or they have framed their law, they have based it on the basis of a capitalistic economy. All right, now how does this Say's law of market works? Whenever some production process is being done, then income is being generated. I have told you earlier that income in the form of income receipt in the form of rent, interest, profit, wages, etc. is being generated, right? When this income receipts is being generated, it raises the purchasing power of the people, right? When they spend it, right, or do the expenditure, as a result aggregate demand increases. When aggregate demand increases, it stimulates investment. The producers starts producing or they do investment, and when investment increases, it automatically generates more employment, right? So this is how the Say's law of market works. So here is an example. If suppose in the economy goods and services worth of euro 10,000 is being generated, that means when production starts, then the production cost is of euro 10,000, and that leads to a supply of goods and services worth of euro 10,000 again. When this supply is being generated, then it generates automatically income receipts of that amount again, that is euro 10,000, in the form of wages, rent, interest and profit, and that income is utilized for making demand of that very good that is being supplied in the process of production. So that is the reason supply automatically becomes equal to demand, or demand equals supply, right? So this is how Say's law works, right? Now what are the basic implications of Say's law in the market? That there will never be a situation of general overproduction, because supply and demand always will be in equilibrium, right? No unemployment will be there, right? Because if there is unemployment, or that means there will be more supply of labor than the demand. So automatically what will happen, due to the flexibility of prices, the cost of labor will come down. That means wage rate will fall. When wages will fall, when cost of production will fall, it stimulates more investment by the producers. So when more investment is being done, more employment will be generated, again demand for labor will go up. So this is how again there will be an equilibrium or equality between the demand for labor and supply of labor. So this is how unemployment problem will be sorted out, right? Then next is automatic adjustment through flexibility of wages, prices and rate of interest. I have mentioned that how due to flexibility of wages, full employment situation is maintained. Then again, if there is disequilibrium between demand and supply of goods and services, so prices will adjust in such a way due to the price mechanism or due to the supply and demand forces, that again there will be drawn an equilibrium between the demand and supply. And if there is certain disequilibrium in the case of saving and investment, that is regarding the demand for capital and supply of capital, again that equilibrium will be drawn with the flexibility of rate of interest, right? Then there is always be an equality between saving and investment, right? If saving and investment is in disequilibrium, rate of interest will adjust in such a way that again the equality will be brought between the saving and investment. Then this applies in a barter system of economy where the producer produces for mainly two purposes: for self-consumption or to buy certain goods and services which he does not possess. So to exchange that good in return, right? So in a barter system of economy, this Say's law prevails or validates. This law is valid. Then economic system has inbuilt flexibility due to the price mechanism system. Supply and demand works in such a way that equilibrium will be there, no overproduction, no general unemployment, right? And in case of the quantity theory of money, and Say's law of market applies to it, because it's money, they said, that has only one role to play, that is medium of exchange. So if that means money does not affect the economic activities, that is the reason the classicals have given the quantity theory of money, where they have mentioned that there will be an direct and proportionate relationship between the quantity of money and general price level, and direct and negative relationship, inverse relationship between the quantity of money and value of money. On that basis, this is again based on the Say's law of market, right? So coming to the criticism, as they have assumed that government interference or there should not be there, that means a laissez-faire policy should be adopted. But after the 1929 30s Great Depression, when Great Depression came in after the World War, so Keynes have felt that there is a necessity of that government should intervene in the economic affairs to recover the economy from the state of depression, right? So a state intervention is required. Then automatic adjustment has been failed after that Great Depression, right? So classical theories and laws have been failed after the Great Depression phase. So automatic adjustment or price mechanism does not work at all, because the prices have fallen so much. Despite of that, demand have not risen, demand for goods and services was not there, right? So there was a lack of automatic adjustment which was found, right, in the history. Then we found the general overproduction as well. Unemployment was there in the during the phase of depression again, right? And Keynes has criticized the theory of classicals and as well the J.B. Say's law of market on the basis that he said rate of interest is something which is determined purely on which is purely a monetary phenomenon, right? So which is being determined by the demand for money and supply of money, not by the saving and investment, because saving itself depends upon some other factor, and investment on the other hand depends upon certain other factors, right? For example, saving depends upon the level of income, right? And whereas investment does not only depends upon the rate of interest but also on the marginal efficiency of capital, that is the return from the capital, right? So both these are dependent on certain other factors. So to draw an equality between these two through rate of interest is something illogical, right? And money does not prove to be just a wheel, or it does not have just one function. It has various other functions, and it does affect the economic system. So that is why the after the Keynesian economics, we felt the importance of monetary policy in the economy. So money has various other functions as well. It has a store of value, it is a measure of value, right? So that is it. Then there is Keynes also has criticized this law on the basis that classicals or GBC has tried to implement a partial equilibrium to generalize it. The equilibrium has been generalized, right? For example, when they said that we can raise the level of employment or demand for labor by cutting the cost, that means by bringing down the wage rate. But if in case of one firm it is possible to do that, but if we apply this theory to the whole economy or to the whole firms in the economy, right, when we will cut the wages of laborers, it will not just have a cost effect but also have an income effect. So income of the laborers will come down. When income of the laborers will come down, demand will automatically fall. When aggregate demand falls, automatically there will be again a recession process that will emerge in the economy. So that is the reason Keynes said that they have applied a partial equilibrium to a general equilibrium, right? Then again, this law in a capitalistic economy, and in case of underdeveloped economy or developing economies or a socialistic pattern of economy, this law is totally failed, because in a socialistic pattern of economy we consider, or in a mixed economy we consider the importance of government's role in the economic affairs, in policy making as well, right? And then they have studied only the long term equilibrium, whereas Keynes always has mentioned that we should focus more on short run, because according to Keynes we all will be dead in the long run, so we should focus more on the problems that persist during the short run, right? So that is why he criticized the classicals or the JB Say's law of market on that basis as well. So this is it with the Say's law of market. Thank you.